The world just witnessed something that will change the future of warfare forever. A $3,000 Iranian drone obliterated a $5 million Israeli Merkava tank in seconds. This is not just a tactical loss. This is the collapse of a military doctrine that has ruled the battlefield for 70 years. Let me be clear. What happened on that battlefield is not an isolated incident. It is a signal that the age of the tank, the age of armored dominance, the age of expensive Western military hardware claiming invincibility is over. And the West does not want you to understand what this means. The Merkava tank is not just any tank. It is the pride of the Israeli Defense Forces. It is one of the most advanced main battle tanks in the world. It has active protection systems. It has advanced armor. It has electronic countermeasures. It was designed specifically to survive in urban combat and asymmetric warfare. Israel spent decades developing this machine. They poured billions into research and development. And yet, a drone that costs less than a used car took it out in seconds. How did this happen? Let me take you through the evolution of this moment, because this did not start yesterday. This started years ago when Iran made a strategic decision that the West completely ignored. They decided they would not try to match the United States or Israel in expensive military hardware. They would not build fleets of fighter jets or armored divisions. Instead, they would invest in asymmetric warfare, drones, missiles, electronic warfare, guerrilla tactics, proxy networks. They built an entirely different kind of military power, and the West laughed. They called it primitive. They called it desperate. They said Iran was weak because it could not afford modern weapons. But Iran was not weak. Iran was smart. They understood something the Pentagon and Tel Aviv did not. The future of war is not about who has the most expensive toys. It is about who can adapt fastest. Who can strike hardest with the least cost? Who can make the enemy bleed without bleeding themselves? So Iran developed drones, small, cheap, easy to produce, easy to deploy, and most importantly, nearly impossible to stop. These drones are not sophisticated in the traditional sense. They do not have stealth technology like an American fighter jet. They do not have advanced AI targeting systems, but they do not need them, because they are expendable. You can lose 10 of them and it does not matter. You can lose 50 and it still does not matter. Because for the cost of one Merkava tank, you can build over 1,000 of these drones. Now let us talk about what happened on the ground. The Merkava was moving through contested territory. It had infantry support. It had aerial reconnaissance. It had all the standard operational protocols in place. And then the drone came. It was not detected until it was too late. It flew low. It used terrain masking. It avoided radar. And when it reached its target, it struck from above. The top of a tank is its weakest point. Every military planner knows this. But traditional anti-tank weapons attack from the side or the front. Drones attack from above. And the Merkava's active protection system, designed to intercept rockets and missiles coming horizontally, was useless. The drone hit. The shaped charge penetrated the armor. The crew did not survive. The tank was destroyed. Total time from detection to destruction, less than 10 seconds. Cost to Israel, $5 million plus the loss of trained personnel. Cost to Iran, $3,000. This is not just a tactical equation. This is a strategic nightmare for every Western military planner watching this unfold. But here is what the media will not tell you. This is not the first time this has happened. It has been happening for months. In Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria. Iranian drones and drones built with Iranian technology have been systematically destroying Israeli armor. And it is not just Israel. Look at Ukraine. Russian tanks are being destroyed daily by drones. Look at Yemen. Saudi armor has been decimated by Houthi drones. The pattern is clear. The tank is dying, and no one in the West wants to admit it. Why? Because admitting it means admitting that trillions of dollars in military spending has been wasted. It means admitting that the entire doctrine of armored warfare, the doctrine that shaped NATO's strategy for decades, is obsolete. It means admitting that smaller, poorer nations can now challenge military superpowers without building expensive conventional forces, and that terrifies them. Let us go deeper into the military analysis here. The Merkava represents a philosophy. That philosophy says you win wars by having superior technology, superior firepower, and superior protection. You build a machine so advanced, so heavily armored, so lethal that the enemy cannot touch you. And for decades, that philosophy worked. Israeli tanks rolled through Arab armies in 1967. American tanks destroyed Iraqi divisions in 1991. Armor was king. But the battlefield has changed. Modern drones are small, agile, and networked. They can loiter over a battlefield for hours. They can be controlled from hundreds of miles away. They can coordinate with other drones to overwhelm defenses. And most critically, they can be produced in massive numbers. This is not a question of quality versus quantity. This is a question of adaptability versus rigidity. The tank is a rigid system. It requires fuel, maintenance, trained crews, supply lines, and air superiority to operate effectively. The drone requires none of that. It is a fire-and-forget weapon, and it is changing everything. Now let us talk about the political implications. Israel has built its entire security doctrine around technological superiority. They have always believed that their advanced weapons would guarantee their survival in a hostile region. But what happens when that advantage disappears? What happens when Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iranian-backed militias can destroy Israeli armor at will with cheap drones? It changes the calculus of war. It makes large-scale ground invasions far more costly. It makes occupation almost impossible. And it forces Israel to reconsider its entire strategic posture. And this extends beyond Israel. The United States has spent trillions building the most advanced military in history: aircraft carriers, stealth bombers, tank divisions. But what good is an aircraft carrier when it can be swarmed by hundreds of drones launched from small boats? What good is a tank division when every vehicle can be hunted by a drone that costs less than a laptop? The Pentagon knows this. They are scrambling to develop countermeasures. But the reality is they are playing catch-up, and they are losing. Let us also consider the economic dimension. Iran is under sanctions. Their economy has been crippled by Western pressure. And yet, they are producing weapons that are outperforming systems built by countries with 50 times their military budget. How is this possible? Because they are not trying to match the West dollar for dollar. They are exploiting weaknesses. They are using asymmetry as a weapon, and it is working. This has massive implications for global power structures. For decades, military dominance has been tied to economic dominance. The richest countries had the best militaries. But now, a country with a fraction of the budget can neutralize the most expensive weapons systems. That changes everything. It means smaller nations can resist superpowers. It means proxy wars become more viable. It means the cost of intervention skyrockets. And it means the era of American military hegemony is coming to an end. Now let me explain the technical details that make this so devastating. The Iranian drone in question is likely a variant of the Shahed series or similar kamikaze drone platforms. These are one-way attack drones. They are not meant to return. They carry an explosive payload, and they are designed to crash into their target. The warhead is typically a shaped charge, specifically engineered to penetrate armor. When it detonates, it creates a superheated jet of metal that burns through steel like a blowtorch through butter. The Merkava tank has composite armor. It has reactive armor tiles that explode outward when hit to disrupt incoming projectiles. It has the Trophy active protection system that can shoot down anti-tank missiles. But all of these defenses are designed for threats coming from the front or sides. They are designed for rockets, missiles, and kinetic penetrators fired from other tanks or infantry weapons. They are not designed for a small drone dropping vertically from above. The top armor of any tank is significantly thinner than the front or side armor. This is a fundamental design compromise. If you make the top armor as thick as the front, the tank becomes too heavy to move. So military engineers accept this vulnerability and rely on air superiority to prevent attacks from above. But what happens when the enemy does not need air superiority? What happens when they can launch drones from the back of a truck, from a building, from a hidden position miles away? The entire defensive architecture collapses. And here is the critical point. Israel cannot simply upgrade the Merkava to counter this threat. Adding more armor to the top makes the tank too heavy. Installing upward-facing active protection systems is technically possible, but incredibly expensive and adds massive complexity. And even if they do it, the drones will adapt. They will come in from different angles. They will use swarming tactics. They will overwhelm the defenses through sheer numbers. This is an arms race that Israel cannot win. But let us talk about the broader implications for ground warfare. For the past century, the tank has been the centerpiece of land combat. Infantry-supported tanks, artillery-supported tanks, air power-supported tanks. The entire combined arms doctrine was built around armored vehicles as the primary offensive weapon. But if tanks can be easily destroyed by cheap drones, that entire doctrine falls apart. What replaces it? The answer is dispersion and mobility. Future armies will be smaller, more spread out, and constantly moving. They will avoid concentration because concentration creates targets for drones. They will rely on light vehicles, infantry fighting vehicles, and dismounted troops rather than heavy armor. And they will fight in a completely different way. This is not speculation. This is already happening. Look at how Ukrainian forces are operating. Look at how Hezbollah operates. The future of ground combat is already here. Now let us discuss the intelligence and reconnaissance aspect. One of the reasons these drone strikes are so effective is because they are part of a larger intelligence network. The drone operator does not just fly randomly, hoping to find a tank. They are guided by reconnaissance drones, by spotters on the ground, by signals intelligence that tracks radio communications. The entire kill chain is networked. And this is where Iran has made another brilliant strategic choice. They have built a decentralized command and control system. Their drone operators can work independently. Their reconnaissance assets can pass targeting information through multiple channels. If one node is destroyed, the network continues to function. This is the opposite of how Western militaries operate. Western forces rely on centralized command, on high-tech communication systems, on sophisticated coordination. But all of that creates vulnerabilities. All of that can be disrupted. The Iranian model is primitive by comparison, but it is also resilient. And this resilience is key to understanding why this strategy is so effective. Israel can bomb Iranian facilities. They can kill Iranian commanders. They can disrupt supply lines. But they cannot stop the drones. Because the knowledge of how to build them has spread. Because the components are commercially available. Because the tactics have been shared with proxy forces across the region. This is not a centralized military capability that can be destroyed with a single strike. This is a distributed system that regenerates itself. Let us also examine the psychological impact. Israeli tank crews know that at any moment, a drone could be overhead. They know their armor is not protection anymore. They know that the advanced systems they were trained on cannot save them. This creates fear. This creates hesitation. This degrades combat effectiveness. And this is exactly what Iran wants. They do not need to destroy every Israeli tank. They just need to create enough fear that Israeli armor becomes ineffective. And this fear is spreading. American tank crews are watching this. European militaries are watching this. Every military that invested heavily in armored warfare is now questioning whether those investments were wise. And the answer is becoming clear. They were not. The era of the tank as the dominant weapon system is over, and we are witnessing the birth of a new era. Now let us talk about what the media is hiding from you. You will not see detailed analysis of these drone strikes on mainstream Western news. You will not see honest assessments of Israeli casualties. You will not hear military analysts admitting that the IDF is struggling against an opponent with a tiny fraction of their budget, because that narrative does not fit the story they want to tell. The story they want to tell is that Israel is invincible, that Western technology is superior, that resistance is futile. But the reality is different. The reality is that Israel is losing soldiers, they are losing equipment, and they are not achieving their strategic objectives. The drone strikes are just one part of this larger failure, but they are a critical part because they expose the fundamental weakness of the Israeli military model. Israel has always relied on quick, decisive victories. Their strategy is based on overwhelming force applied rapidly to destroy the enemy before they can respond. But drones change this equation. Drones do not allow for quick victories. They create a war of attrition. And Israel cannot win a war of attrition against an enemy that can replace losses faster and cheaper than they can. This is why you are seeing a shift in Israeli tactics. They are relying more on airstrikes. They are avoiding large ground operations. They are trying to minimize the exposure of their armored units. But this creates its own problems. Airstrikes cannot hold territory. Airstrikes cannot clear buildings. Airstrikes cannot achieve the political objectives that require boots on the ground. So Israel is trapped. They cannot fight the way they want to fight because it is too costly, and they cannot achieve their goals without fighting that way. And the clock is ticking. Every day that passes, Iran and its allies learn more. They refine their tactics. They improve their drones. They train more operators. And the gap between what they can do and what Israel can defend against grows wider. This is not a problem that time will solve. This is a problem that gets worse with time. So what happens next? Let me give you several scenarios. First, Israel will double down on air power. They will try to destroy drone production facilities. They will try to disrupt supply lines. But this will not work. Because drones are cheap and easy to produce, you can build them in a garage. You can hide the components in civilian infrastructure. Bombing campaigns will not stop them. Second, Israel will invest heavily in counter-drone technology, laser systems, electronic warfare, AI-driven interception, and they will have some success. But the cost will be enormous, and the drones will evolve faster than the defenses. This is the nature of asymmetric warfare. The attacker always has the advantage because they can adapt and innovate faster than the defender can respond. Third, this will escalate. Iran will see the success of their drone strategy and they will double down. They will export this technology to their allies. Hezbollah will get better drones. Hamas will get better drones. Houthi forces will get better drones. Syrian militias will get better drones. And Israel will face an enemy that can strike anywhere, anytime, with weapons they cannot stop. The entire region will become a testing ground for drone warfare. Fourth, this will spread beyond the Middle East. China is watching closely. They are developing their own drone swarms. They are thinking about how to use this technology against American carrier groups, against Taiwanese defenses, against forward-deployed U.S. forces. Russia is watching. They are already using drones extensively in Ukraine, and they are learning from Iranian designs. North Korea is watching. Even non-state actors and terrorist organizations are watching. The proliferation of this technology is inevitable. Fifth, the United States will be forced to confront the same problem Israel is facing now. How do you defend against an enemy that can produce thousands of drones for the cost of a single fighter jet? How do you protect your bases, your ships, your armored units from swarms of cheap, expendable weapons? There is no good answer, not yet. The Pentagon is working on it, but they are years behind the curve. And finally, this will force a complete rethinking of military strategy across the globe. The tank will not disappear overnight, but its role will change dramatically. It will become a support weapon, not a breakthrough weapon. Armies will become smaller, more mobile, more dispersed, more networked. The age of massive armored formations rolling across the battlefield is ending, and the age of the drone, the age of distributed warfare, the age of asymmetric dominance, is truly beginning. But here is the deeper truth that nobody wants to say out loud. This is not just about technology. This is about power. This is about who gets to dominate and who gets to resist. For decades, the West has used its technological superiority to enforce its will on the rest of the world. Superior weapons meant superior political leverage. If you had the best military, you could shape outcomes, you could invade, you could occupy, you could dictate terms, and the rest of the world had to accept it. But now that superiority is fading, and the global balance of power is shifting in ways that Washington and Tel Aviv never anticipated. The destruction of a $5 million tank by a $3,000 drone is not just a military event. It is a symbol that the age of Western dominance is ending, a symbol that resistance is not only possible, but increasingly effective, a symbol that the future belongs not to those with the biggest budgets, but to those with the smartest strategies. And this terrifies the establishment. Because if small nations can resist superpowers, if proxy forces can neutralize advanced militaries, if cheap technology can defeat expensive systems, then what is the point of military spending? What is the point of maintaining massive defense budgets? What is the point of projecting power globally if that power can be negated by an enemy spending a fraction of what you spend? These are questions that nobody in Washington or Tel Aviv wants to answer, but they are being forced to confront them anyway. The implications go far beyond the Middle East. This is about the entire architecture of global power. This is about whether the United States can maintain its position as the sole military superpower. This is about whether NATO can continue to dominate Europe. This is about whether the Western model of warfare, the model that has existed since World War II, can survive in the 21st century. And the answer is becoming increasingly clear. It cannot.